Welcome to today's episode of Magnetic Rise, where we explore the real stories behind scaling B2B companies. I am your host, Cikizwa A, and I'm so thrilled to be joined by a visionary leader in the field of innovation management, Nick Jain. Nick is the CEO of IdeaScale, one of the world's largest innovation SaaS companies, which has helped global organizations like Pfizer, the US Postal Services, and Doctors Without Borders revolutionize how they bring new ideas to life. Nick, it's such an honor to have you as our first guest on Magnetic Rise. Welcome.
Siki, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm very excited to be here today.
Super excited. So let's get started. Can you please start by sharing with us a bit of your background and what led to your current role as CEO of IdeaScale?
Sure. So my name's Nick. I'm the CEO of IdeaScale. My quick background is I spent the first 10 years of my career in Wall Street, being a professional investor in private equity and hedge funds. Along the way, I did an undergraduate degree in mathematics and physics, and then an MBA at Harvard Business School. And then for the last 4 or 5 years now, I have been what's called a professional CEO. So I am hired by either private equity firms or founders when their businesses are ready for a stage of institutionalization and the next stage of growth. So far, this is the third company I've either run or co-run. The first was a $100 million revenue heavy trucking industry with big warehouses, huge trucks moving around. Second was a small B2C men's shoe rental company. And now for the past several years, I've been CEO of IdeaScale, which is the largest innovation software company. And as you mentioned, our customers tend to be large corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, etc.
Yo, it sounds like you work really hard, Nick. Congratulations on all that you've achieved. With everything considered, I'm really interested to know what's the current stage of IdeaScale's growth and what are some of the main priorities right now as you lead the company forward?
Sure. So IdeaScale's now been in business for about 15 years. Today, we have around 95 people across 8 countries. And several hundred customers and around $10 million of revenue.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned obviously you cater to a lot of organizations in different sectors, different industries. In your experience across the different sectors, what's been the biggest challenge in scaling a business? How have you tackled this at IdeaScale?
Sure. I think there's two aspects that are really challenging about scaling a business. And I'm really focusing on scaling business, not the starting up a business. Number one, in scaling a business, you have to institutionalize things. So as a startup, everything is kind of informal, it's happening randomly. But when you're scaling a business, you have to institutionalize things. And by that, I mean you have to have actual standard processes or standard operating procedures for a lot of things, whether that be HR and hiring, whether that be sales, whether that be engineering. You can't just let everyone do what they're doing. You actually have to create repeatable processes, because what worked for one person, or if you have 3 salespeople, you can have individual conversations with each of them. But if you have a sales force of 20 people or 100 people, you need to have a standardized process for managing all of those folks. So that's number one. You need to institutionalize things, and that's something I think a lot of young businesses struggle with as they scale up. They're still very kind of founder-led, very entrepreneurial, which has some good aspects, but that prevents them from scaling because everything is too idiosyncratic. The second is remaining committed to customer needs. So as companies or organizations scale, often the executives become more mired in bureaucratic internal things and they lose touch with the customer. So it's really important that the executives of a company, and I'm not just talking the CEO, but I'm talking the chief product officer, the CFO, like everyone who's making meaningful decisions at the company are really close to what the customer needs. And one of the ways we deal with that at IdeaScale is every single employee at IdeaScale is expected to use our software. And we, in fact, use our software to figure out how we get better as a company. And in fact, I'm probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest user of our software in-house. I use it literally every single day. I'm the most active community member on our software. And that means that when something's bad about our software, I'm often like one of the first people to see it. I can say, hey, this is something we need to fix. So I am our customer, which is a very important mentality for scaling a business.
Incredibly important. Yeah. Yo, that's amazing to hear. And it sounds like you're really passionate about what you do. You're really interested. For you, it's a lot more than just the revenue that comes in. It's actually a true deep passion in what you do. I can see it in the way you describe it, the way you describe how you go about day to day. And that's really, really cool. I understand that innovation separates businesses from their competition. I would assume in the industry that you're in, you've got quite a large territory in terms of competition. So, how do you foster a culture of innovation within your company, especially when you're leading a platform that helps others to do the same?
Sure. So I wouldn't say we're in a crowded space. There's not a million people that do what we do, but we are in a competitive space. There's about 5 or 6 other companies that
Mm,
are good companies that compete that do similar things as what we do. So I think there's a few things that we do to innovate or to remain innovative. Number one is if you're selling innovation software and you really believe it's a good piece of software, you should use it. So we actually, as I said, we use our software because we actually believe it helps us get better. Um, so we don't just use it to tell our customers that we believe it's actually making us better as a company, making us more innovative as a company. So that's number one. We actually try and implement as many of the best practices, both from a process and technology point of view. So whatever we're out there selling the market, if we really believe it, which we do, we actually try and do it in house. That's number one.
mm,
Number two is uh, we don't think, though we're doing well, we remain hungry and say that's never enough. We believe that tomorrow we have to be better and than we are today, and that's not just from a product perspective. That could be from a marketing perspective, that could be an engineering perspective, an internal HR perspective. We're always focused on getting better each day, and that's really kind of in the lifeblood or culture of this organization. That's separate from kind of the business pressure. We just believe we're never happy with enough is enough, right? We want to be better every day. And then third is, look, we're out there competing in a market, as you noted, against other people. And we know that if we don't get better each day, our competitors are going to outpace us and outcompete us. And that's kind of a bad outcome
mm.
for our employees, for our shareholders, for our customers. So we are what is it in the words of I think it was the Intel founder Andy Grove, I think it was, who said only the paranoid survive. So we remain innovative because we are hungry, we're paranoid, and we use we use our own software.
It's the first time I've heard being paranoid being used in a positive light,
Well,
but I
it's
guess
a
it works like
fundamental
that.
it's a fundamental principle of
Yeah.
business that if you're not paranoid about what your competitors are doing, then you're going to fall behind. Because if you're not progressing or innovating, your competitors certainly are. They're not going to be, your competitors not fine being number two. They're not fine being number
Mm,
four. They're trying to be number one. And so if you're number one, you better be paranoid that they're coming for you because they are.
definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. So, what's the biggest mistake you've seen businesses make repeatedly when trying to scale?
Sure. It's not understanding the money side of things. I think a lot of young
Mm,
businesses, they're, again, very passionate about what they do. They may have a great product, they may have figured out how to sell the product, but they haven't thought about how all the numbers add up. And that could be from a finance perspective or an internal analytics perspective. And so many businesses are so focused on the product. And again, you want to be focused on the product. You want to be making a great product for your customers, but you're not thinking about, hey, does this business actually make sense? Does it make money? And because if businesses don't make money, ultimately that's bad for everyone involved. That's bad for customers, that's bad for employees, that's bad for shareholders. So a lot of young businesses need to get more sophisticated on understanding their business's economics and understanding how those economics evolve as they scale. Or sometimes they don't evolve, and that's really bad.
mm. Okay, yo, that's interesting. It's quite an insight to think about, especially for people who are starting up as well. Okay. What I've gathered from this conversation is sort of that I might be wrong, but just my observation, you're the type of person who leads from the front. You don't lead from the back and give instructions. You use your own software. You lead by example. You show your employees what you expect them to be within the company. So looking back, what's the most important leadership lesson that you've learned, and how has it shaped the way that you lead today?
Sure. So I would agree that I'm deeply involved in most aspects of the company, right? Because that makes sure that I'm doing real work, not just a random administrative PowerPoint boardroom work, which I don't think is real work. um, so I think the greatest kind of mistake or failing, and this is something I continue to kind of try and get better on, is creating incentives for people to be effective. Um, so one of the important things that a leader or CEO has to do is make sure that their organization is everyone in the organization is rowing in the same direction. That's really hard because different people are motivated by different things, right? Some people are motivated by
Mm.
money, some people are motivated by fame, others are motivated by doing good for society. Um, and every company has a different mix of these people. And I think I have struggled at various points. I think I'm getting better, but I'm still not world class at this. At understanding how every person's motivation is slightly different and tailoring the communication and tailoring the incentive structure in a way that appeals to them so that they are rowing in exactly the same direction as everyone else, helping the company and helping IdeaScale succeed overall.
Mm. Okay. Sure. I really wish we could drag this interview out longer because it seems like you've got some really good insights on business. Maybe you should open up I don't know, what would you call it? Like a coaching, some sort of business coaching. Um, okay, last but not least, if you could have dinner with any historical figure or entrepreneur, who would it be and why?
I think it would be a historical figure. I think it would be Mary Shelley, the author of
Mm.
Frankenstein. And what I love about her is here's a woman in Victorian England, right, in a time when there weren't that many female authors. She's married to one of the most famous poets of the time, Percy Bysshe Shelley, who I also love as well. And just as part of a friendly competition, she writes up this even again her husband is a world famous like author and poet at this point, but just as kind of a competition one night, she writes up this like horrifying, amazing story called Frankenstein that today like everyone knows, right? And people outside the kind of English poetry circles don't know who Percy Shelley is, but they know of Mary Shelley, they know of Frankenstein. So I think that's just would be such a cool conversation how she came up with this idea, how she overcame these obstacles that were relevant to her gender at that point in time, and made this into a worldwide phenomenon. I think that would be such a cool like conversation to have.
It Yeah, it definitely would. And I'm all here for women who are here to challenge the system. My type of woman. Well, that wraps up our very, very insightful conversation with Nick Jain, CEO of IdeaScale. We've covered a lot of ground, a lot of actionable insights that we've gained from this incredible man. Nick's journey and leadership are truly inspiring, and it's clear that his vision for the future and of innovation is ambitious and grounded in the practical needs of organizations today. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. For our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about IdeaScale or exploring how you can foster innovation in your own organization, be sure to check out their website at ideascale.com. And thank you again, Nick. To our listeners, stay tuned for more insightful interviews like this.